Now, then I also had the passion. I've always been passionate about it, even before I knew all the technical details and stuff like that, right? And then made people happy, So there was the full part, the service part, all that, right? So I had that threesome covered. Yeah. But what was missing was that I realized, and COVID showed me this, I had been growing business wise, right? But I hadn't been growing, myself. Does that make sense? Like building my mental resilience, my emotional resilience, my, and because of how passionate I was about it. See, the more passionate you are about it, the harder you
Yes, true.
grow. And so that literally happened to me in COVID. I had panic attacks, and I really did have mental breaks. And because for me, it was just, I don't know if you remember, but in 2020, all the news, it sounded like like travel was never going to happen. Like
Yeah.
everything to a complete end. I had out of work for that long, and starting, like, I realized then that I had never dealt with that much uncertainty. Like everything, I always knew that step, and I didn't know how to handle uncertainty, and so of course anxiety shot up, in everything. So I literally had to get into treatment. I had to, get on medication. It was really, really bad, and that.
Karibu. No way. Musibire muta. Mwasibye mutya. Amahoro. Agandi. Bible. Habari gani? Muraho. Sangonini. Kopango. Odeo. For those of you who are wondering what that was, these are some of the various local greetings found in East Africa's diverse languages. Welcome to She Center, the female podcast, where I dive into the issues and experiences that affect women everywhere. I am your host, Resti Kansime, and I am passionate about creating a safe space for women to share their stories and triumphs. I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I would love for you to join our community and stay connected with us beyond this episode. You can find us on Instagram at _She Center _podcast, and follow us on Facebook at the She Center Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit that follow and like button on our social media to be part of the conversation. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to yet another episode of She Center, the female podcast. I'm very thrilled to have you guys back here. I am back from a break that I did not announce. So I took a 2-week break, or maybe 3-week. I am still deciding if I should put out this episode at the end of June, or if I should start at the beginning of July. So when you're listening to this, you'll probably find out when, but I might take an extra week off because I am working on something really exciting, which I will be sharing very soon. So I decided to just not focus so much on content and editing, because this whole process is not that easy, guys. So welcome once again. Thank you so much for listening. And please, a quick reminder, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, wherever you're listening, whether it is on YouTube, you can still do it on all platforms, YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, like, share, because the algorithm is really doing things, and I would like to spread this messages as far and wide as possible, and you are the only person who can help me to do that. So please subscribe, like, comment, share, so that you can help me to build this platform. You are a part of this journey, whether you want it or not. So in this 2-week journey, I have not been recording that many people, but I've just come out of a recording with someone who I am very excited, who I was very excited to speak to. I got to listen to her story on a podcast, I think it's Lisa Tusime's podcast, and I was really, truly inspired. Like, I saw myself in her story, and I was like, yes, this is someone I would like to have on the podcast. when I listened to her, I connected so much to her story, and I was able to find her social media, and whatever that she's doing, it turns out that she's doing so much. She is Laura Kagame. She is the founder and CEO of Travel Neza. She also is in hospitality. She has a lot of, I think, 3 or 4, I'm not quite sure, hotels or lodges. And she has started something called Tuza, which she's going to share about in this episode, as you're going to hear, which is for me the most amazing part about her development or her innovation, because she says it's something that she has she's not sure where it's going, but she started it. So Laura is going to share so much about her journey, how she has gotten to where she is, and how the pandemic exposed the system that was broken in her, and how she managed to fix herself through personal development and fix the team that she has through, because she became a better person. She ended up becoming a better leader, and she has now ended up starting Tuza, which is making a huge impact and is going to continue making a huge impact. So I am very excited for you guys to listen to this episode, because Laura has so much wisdom, and I think sometimes you can really tell when someone is really, really living in their purpose. And as she shares in the episode, she did decide that she was officially living in her purpose when she fully started to embrace who she is as a whole and started to develop herself and build that resilience that she needs. This story is something that is going to really shake so much in you and to make you realize how important personal development is. I do have so much to think about after this conversation with Laura, and I'm very excited for you guys to listen in as well. So listen until the end, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now. Hi, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for honoring my invitation. It's interesting. A friend shared a podcast where you were being interviewed a couple of months ago, and I watched it. I'm like, can I get Laura to come onto this podcast? It felt like something that would be like, you know what? Let me just give it a try and reach out to her and see. So I'm so happy that you were very happy to do that. And I'm very happy to share your story on the She Center podcast. I know that you've been a very outspoken voice out there to, talk about mental health and empowering people to know some of these things that many of us are shying away from speaking about. But of course, it's not only what we are going to talk about. You are a woman who is doing everything. You're doing so much. And I think for me, that's the most amazing part about your journey, is the fact that despite what you have been through, you're out here like not looking like your problems. And that's inspiring to know, because in many cases, many people, which is something that I shared on the podcast many times, there's so many people who go through things and they just stay there, like they don't move on. And to me, I think listening to someone's story and being able to recognize yourself in their story and knowing that, oh, that means that I can go through that and still rise from it, that's for me the goal of this podcast, like to inspire people through stories. So just a short, brief summary about the She Center. It's more like a digital platform. It's a vision that I'm building to have a platform in East Africa which will have resources, services, and so many other things, but focusing on only women. And I felt like as I build the vision, I can be able to kind of showcase the stories of different African women, mostly in East Africa, and interviewing them and sharing what exactly they're going through, how they are handling different things. My end goal is to do my PhD, and I didn't have a topic to focus on, but now I know that it's in digitalization and how we can empower women through digitalization and digital platforms. So I'm kind of almost there, and I think the interviews that I've had so far are guiding me in the right direction. So I started out by asking women to share their journeys on answering the question, what happened to you? And I felt like that was one way to find out, how is something that happened to you when you were a child affecting who you are now as an adult and how you see the world. And I switched that. I was like, you know what? Let's now focus on purpose, because ever since 2020 came, many people are like trying to go after the things that giving them life. And I was like, okay, let me ask, are you living in your purpose? But either way, that also goes back to like the questions, as you discover, they go back to answering like your purpose, how you see what your purpose is also always coming from where you have been, what you've been through, because all those things always align together to get you to where you are. So with all that, I want to ask you to introduce yourself to the people who might not know you, who you are, what you do, and then I will ask the question.
Okay. So my name is Laura Kagame, and I am a hospitality and travel entrepreneur. I own a travel company, a leading travel company called Travel Neza, and a hotel group called Acacia Group Hotels. That has 3 hotels under it and 2 more to come. So that is a bit. I am also a mother. I usually start with that until people started saying other things. But to a lovely 13-year-old boy and
Wow.
daughter, sister, colleague, friend. Really, that's who I am. I also recently started an organization called Tuza. Now, Tuza in my language means calmness, and it's just a space where we talk about and also collect resources to help people find their inner calm. Because I believe that without that calmness, without that clarity, you just can't get far.
Yes.
You will crush. You'll just keep crushing.
Yeah.
So that's
I believe
really
that.
that Tuza, Travel Neza, and Acacia, and motherhood.
Yeah.
Those are the 4.
I love that.
Um,
I love that background introduction. I think that gives us a lot to expect in what your purpose is. It seems like it's all over, like it's in different facets of your life, and I'm very excited to find out. Do you feel like you're living in your purpose right now, and how has your journey shaped this sense of purpose for you?
So I think right now this is the most, and this is the most intentional. This is the most that I have ever lived in my purpose. So I used to think that I was living in my purpose until I discovered quite a number of things. There was one element I was missing, or that I hadn't really built, and that was resilience. So for me, purpose is ability, competency, passion, and that what you're doing is actually giving back to the community. It is developing the people around you. It is growing the people around you. It is benefiting to the people. That's to
Yeah.
me, right. So now, yes, I had those 3 things, but there was one element missing, and that was resilience. That was the ability to withstand all the things that get thrown at you,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I realized that because of how passionate I was, and how capable I was about, doing what it is that I chose to do, I, uh, I just kept doing it one stepping block at a time. So I never ever
Yeah.
saw all the challenges coming. So I just hit them head on, and of course it caused a bit of a crisis. But I have since been on a journey of both healing, but mostly self awareness and inner mastery to be able to, yeah, to withstand all the challenges that get thrown at me from all angles. Yeah.
I
So I
like
think
that. I like your response.
I am now.
That's
Yeah.
good. I think hearing what you're saying, I kind of see myself in this I understand myself in the way that you've explained it, because I did feel like starting from 2020, okay, I got it. My purpose, empowering women, let's do this. And then along the way, a lot has had to change. Like, because every time you try to do something, like for instance, I have discovered stuff like my insecurities, like having a big vision and trying to beg people, can you please like just join me? And then those people say no. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this alone. And then I discover along the way, wait, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
And then I
Well,
find out that,
then,
yes, yes. Yeah, and then I find out stuff like, okay, content creation, it's not my thing. Wait, now I can do it. I can't do this. And then there are times when, like, for instance, when I would reach out to people, and then the patience that I'm getting through the podcast, there's a time I recorded someone for like 4 hours, and we didn't even end up having an episode because the internet was just interneting. It was
That-
at the end 4 hours, and that episode never even made it to it was so frustrating, and it wasn't even the first time we tried. So I also learned that I have patience somehow, which I didn't think I have. So I feel like, yes, you can, now I'm understanding that yes, you can have purpose, but I think you finally walk into it after all these things have been worked on, because they're saying, yes, I'm going to do this, but if you don't have the patience, that this and this and this, then it can really be hard for you to feel like you're walking in your purpose.
yeah.
Can you maybe share some part of your journey for some people who don't know? Because someone might just be like, okay, what is it that she's talking about? Like, what has gotten you to for instance, think about creating this Tuza? Like, what got you to that point in your life to feel like, okay, I need to start this space? And what is it about traveling that you love that gets you to feel like this is what I want to focus on?
So those are two big questions in there. One is what led me to this passion, to my passion of travel and hospitality. Then the second one, all the things that led to Tuza, right? Those are uh,
Yeah.
just for context. I will start with the first one. What got me to travel? Now, I have always sought happiness. I'm that person that is always seeking joy. And now that as I've part of the self-awareness journey that comes with I have ADHD and things like that. So I'm literally always seeking joy and just happiness, dopamine.
Yeah.
Like if not that things are boring, I will seek it. I will find it somehow. So it's either trying to make myself happy. I'm that person who will be creating games. I just don't know how to be bored. So I'm always trying to create experiences. And then yeah, so growing up I noticed how whenever we'd travel as a family, that's when we'd be happiest. And my definition of happy then was just less rules, less quarreling, less fighting with the siblings,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
everyone at peace and smiling more and telling stories and being more, just free spirited, right? And I just always wished, Laura being Laura, I always wished every day was like that. Like if more and more people could experience that. So whenever
Yeah.
I went to school or to my friends and people that haven't traveled, and I'm like, no, like I would really want them to experience that. Anyway, so somehow, um, other people's jobs, all the other jobs seemed extremely boring to me because people never looked happy at work. When parents go to come back, there's just never that joy or them actually talking about their work enthusiastically like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
Yeah.
just knew that I had to do something in travel. Like I really wanted to travel. My goal was to finish school and then travel so that I can be happy for it, right? And then
Yeah.
so I was lucky that I actually had very open-minded parents. I actually ended up in a school in South Africa that specialized in that, and got a degree in tourism development, and later on a master's in hospitality management in Asia. So yeah, South Africa and then Asia, and both very very relatable markets, which I really gained a lot from. So
Yeah.
I think so that is why, and up to date, I am very very passionate about creating unforgettable, memorable, life changing experiences for people. I literally believe, what they say, like that movie that flashes back on your deathbed, like that. Ding, ding, ding,
Yeah.
all
Did I live a good life?
like I imagine of all
Yes.
your best memories. I promise you,
Yes.
90% of those would be like when you're on holiday somewhere and you're all holding hands on a
Yes. Yes.
because that's when you're happiest and those are the memories that just never ever leave your memory. So
Yes.
I'm very passionate about doing that for people, even for corporates. Now we do a lot of corporate retreats, family holidays, wellness retreats. It's all that. It's all about the experiences. So that's what I do. My
That's
personality, I
amazing.
can't do something that doesn't make me, that the people around me happy. I really can't. I don't know how to just dwell in like that. So I have to do something I'm really passionate about. And I'm so blessed that I actually ended up being good at it, because there's being passionate about something. Then So really,
Good
that's
at
why
it. Yes,
purpose,
that's true.
the
Yeah,
capability, the
yeah,
competence,
true.
passion,
Yeah.
and then that fulfillment part that it makes other people happy also, right? That's the third part, fulfillment part. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so that's how I got into that. And now hotels was just, that's moving up
Expanded.
across
Yes.
the value
Yeah.
chain, So because of how I am about the industry, I've always been so focused on that. Like I will always grow within the industry. I'm one of those people you won't find bags, flasks, furniture. If it's furniture, it will be furniture for hotels, you know. Think- So naturally, we moved into hotels, and yeah, the most exciting project being a concession, a government concession that we won as Travel Neza to build a beautiful lodge inside Queen Elizabeth National Park, and
Wow.
it's only the second one now, right? Beautiful views. I'm extremely passionate about it. I feel so at home there. Even when when guests come, it's like they've come to visit. Like that's how at home it feels to me, So yes, so it's
Yeah.
things like that that I can really say that I'm living my
That's
yeah
that's good. It's interesting when you hear someone talk about like something that you really see is their purpose. You start to understand things that you don't understand normally because how do you get your love for traveling? Because many cases like people love traveling, they become influencers. You post stuff about where you are, what you're gonna do. You don't really think about starting at. I always actually wondered like travel agencies. What's with these guys? What's with these guys? Like how does someone just sit down and try? But then every time I'm trying to plan a trip and how overwhelming it gets and exhausting, like flights, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? How is this going to be handled? You find that yes, you have the money, you buy the ticket, you go to this destination, and that's it. You just sit there in your hotel room
yeah
and you're looking around and you don't know what to do. Well,
yeah
you see people, it took me to move here to Germany to start seeing like when we're doing our language course, one of the things is like that always comes up is travel agencies. Like, okay, you want to travel here. It's one of the things they teach us in our language course. You want to travel here. Can you ask them that you want to go here? Or maybe you went somewhere with them and something was not fine, so make a complaint. And that's when I started to understand that people here they don't have that time to stress. Like you have work and you want to go somewhere, so you just tell
yeah.
someone, hey, what destinations do you have available? Can I go there? And everything is planned for you when you get there, from the time they pick you up to the time what you're going to do when you're there. Someone sat down and thought about this because they love doing it. But when you think about it, actually, when you do it on your own, you either won't have fun, first of all. Secondly, you waste money. That's
Yeah.
one thing I realized. You waste a lot of money.
But that's the main thing actually. You waste a lot of money. So you'll find that I'll give an example of like Dubai. There's something called snack in the sky and there's dinner in the sky. Now with dinner in the sky, that's the one of let's say it's $250 per person, right? So more high. Then the snacks in the sky is about $80. But you still have the same view. You know what I mean? So you'll have someone who won't experience it at all because all they know is the dinner in the sky. But if you contacted a travel consultant, they would give you
Exactly.
they would
Yeah.
also tell you what time is best to go. Now, I know a lot of people can say, yes, you can get this on the internet. But by the time you put all this together, right, it's very time consuming for you. You might not get it.
Yes.
There are a lot of things that we know on ground because of our experience, right? That
Yes. Yes.
we make it convenient for you. But yeah, so yes, so that's what I do on the work front.
No,
And
I
then
really love that.
the hotels as well. The hotels are very experienced. Of activities, very well thought through, create something unique for each of our guests.
Yes.
Because of the advantage that I've had with Travel Neza. We've dealt with customers for quite a while, so we know what they look out for. We know, we've been receiving this feedback from our customers about hotels for the longest time. So now when we got to build ours, we knew exactly, what to do,
What
what
people
to
need.
do.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
like you know, um, it's really helping. Yeah,
I like that. I think it's if you have been passionate about something, then you see problems that other people who just have the money to start companies that they don't see.
yeah,
Also, the fact that you love to travel, you get to realize, okay, as a person who travels, these are some of the things that I missed out on when I was traveling, or the things that weren't in a hotel when I wanted to stay there. Yeah. And how about the Neza? What was the inspiration behind that?
Behind Travel Neza.
So the Tuza, sorry, Tuza,
Yeah,
Tuza.
now Tuza. Yeah. So remember, I started with, so what I had, the competency check. I was, I'm very good at travel. I
Yeah.
have studied it. I have experienced it. I have everything. I'm an expert at that. Now, then I also had the passion. I've always been passionate about it, even before I knew all the technical details and stuff like that, right? And then made people happy, So there was the full part, the service part, all that, right? So I had that threesome covered. Yeah. But what was missing was that I realized, and COVID showed me this, I had been growing business wise, right? But I hadn't been growing myself. Does that make sense? Like building
Yes,
my
yes.
mental resilience, my emotional resilience, my, and because of how passionate I was about it. See, the more passionate you are about it, the harder you
Yes, yes, true.
cry. And so that literally happened to me in COVID. I had panic attacks, and I really did have mental break. And because for me, it was just, I don't know if you remember, but in 2020, all the news, it sounded like the like travel was never going to happen
The
again.
what?
Like
Yeah, yeah.
everything to a complete end. I had
Wow.
out of work for that long, and starting, like, I realized then that I had never dealt with that much uncertainty. Like I
Oh,
always knew that
yes.
step, and I didn't know how to handle uncertainty, and so of course anxiety shot up, and everything. So I literally had to get into treatment. I had to, get on medication. It was really, really bad, and that's when I knew how delicate. I learned how delicate the mind can be, and how resilience. The word resilience isn't as light as it may sound. We need to build in every form.
Yeah,
Even the body breaks down when you're stressed. So
yeah.
physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. I had to build how many of those? Emotional, spiritual, mental. What have I left out? Like,
Physical. Yes.
that I had to actively work on. Like how you have a car, and for the car to move, how the
To
engine
move, yeah, you need to
starts,
work on. Yes,
right?
yes, that's true. Yeah.
I had to start doing that. So obviously that involved a lot of therapy. Um, this only came in literally, let's say 2021, 2023, those 2 3 years, right, where I literally had to take a step back because I was crashing. And now when this happens, when your mind is crashing, you're obviously making bad decisions, either as a mother, as a
Yeah.
woman, as an employer, a family member. And so the crisis is just compounding and making it worse until I literally. And one of the best things I did is that even now, now that I'm obviously much better and moving even faster, but I'm moving faster but slower. So I have learned the art of slow productivity. Being able to be very intentional about my time and having very strict boundaries. Like now, so is no, take your time. I took the whole afternoon off. Like I will do things like
Yeah.
that. I'll have about an
Yeah.
between meetings to decompress, to breathe in,
Yeah.
out. I never used to do such things. Please, I was a machine just moving. I mean, why not
Yes, yes, I
move?
hear you.
So,
Yeah.
now I'm very, very, like, I'm very specific about how many meetings I'll take a day or a week. They have to only fall in line with what it is that I'm doing that quarter of the year. Say no to that I'm not, that's not aligned with my goals for that time. So I'll
Yeah.
have boundaries in place. And so as I started to learn all this stuff about myself, I became really fascinated about how it had taken me. I mean, I'm not young. I am turning 42 in December. So
You
let's say
don't
when
look
all
like
this was
it.
happening, let's say I was 38, 39, turning 40, and it just hit me. I had been working for 20 years, literally. Okay, no,
Yes.
20, 15 years, let's say uni days to now. When I say working, you're studying, you're doing this, you're living, right? Without knowing
Yes,
any
yes,
of,
yes.
I mean, I really and I'm not joking, I hardly knew anything about mental health. Nothing about like anxiety. I didn't know how to look after my mind. I would just move. You get tired, you sleep. You get up, move. You know, things like that. Now, as I got to learn a lot of this stuff through therapy and my own experiences, that's when I found the need to start to share. You know, started to do videos like this of just sharing my experiences, the
Your
kind of
journey, yeah.
ways how I've communicated them, what
Yeah.
has what hasn't worked, and I was just sharing because I kept thinking, what if I had heard, what if I'd listened to someone that sounded like me? When I say sounded like me, what if I'd listened to a Ugandan businesswoman, um, someone relatable, not Oprah,
Yes.
that there's anything wrong with
Yeah.
Oprah, but there's a way in which our minds can tell us that that one is so those are America problems, you know.
Yes, that's true.
Um,
Yeah.
com- yeah,
Yeah.
compared to if
Yeah.
when you listen to someone who's here in your city, doing what you are, and
Yes. Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what you're actually going through, you will stop and listen. You'll be like,
Very
they're
true.
very
Very,
close to.
very true.
And
Yeah.
I looked around the time all that was happening to me, I looked and I realized there was really no podcast I was following. It's only of late, like the last 1.5 years, that a lot of podcasts have come up.
Podcasts have come up. Yes, true.
Of I'm
Yeah.
finding them, they were not on my radar. But
Yeah, true.
that's when I started talking, because it was like, suppose a 28-year-old just getting into the industry now could learn from me, from my mistakes, and do it better. They don't need to crush
Yes,
at it.
that's true.
Do you know what I mean? There's so much. I
Yes.
keep back and thinking about how so many things could have happened differently if I what I know now at the age of 30. But of course, I'm not going to
Yeah.
live regret like that. And I'll tell myself maybe a lot of that madness got the brands to where they are now, but it could have been done better. So I literally to just be the voice of that person that's listening out there.
You've said so many things, but I'm like, yes, 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 yes. I wrote down one thing. I remember there's a thing, a post I saw during the pandemic that was like, the whole world was like crashing down and everything. And I remember someone wrote something that says, the pandemic didn't break the system, it exposed the system.
Yep.
And while you were speaking, that's what I was talking about. I think many of us, in many cases, yes,
Yeah.
many of us in many situations, we find ourselves like either you face loss, you lose your job, you lose something. If you don't have this strong foundation, you're going to crash. And in many cases, I think you can share if this, I'm guessing this was your experience from what you've explained. You thank God for those moments. You're like, you know what? I thought I got it, but man, just something like the pandemic just came and destroyed all of our, like, you're like, oh my God, I thought I was very confident, I thought I had strong, skills in this and this and this, but then you realize, oh my God. And I think in that moment you have two choices. It's either you stay there and you remain in your pain and be like, yeah, because I have met so many people who you would find up to now they're still struggling to move past the pandemic. They will
Yeah.
tell you, yes, the pandemic came, then I lost my job. That's why I'm like this. This came. It's very interesting when you find someone who went through worse or the similar thing, and they came out and they're like, man, that thing really showed me that I needed to work on this specific thing. And what you also said about stories, that's very important. I think also, like particularly for me, during the pandemic, I was those people who was social. Like, I did not know in my life that I had social anxiety. I didn't know the term for it. I just was. And that's one thing that drew me to your story, because my friend shared it and wrote something about, you guys really need to watch this. I just kept postponing it. When I watched it, I'm like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. From the time I was, I think, 18, I joined a mixed school and I was like, these boys, I don't know what to do around boys. So my friends are like, just take a drink. I'm like, okay, let's try it, this drink thing. Took a shot. Next thing I know, I need this drink every time. And the
Yeah.
people, for me, I was like, you know what? Everyone is doing this. I remember people be like, you need to stop. My mom, like, come on, I'm a young kid. I'm just enjoying myself. And then 2020 came. I literally had just turned 30 and like the week before, and the lockdown came. And then I was like, oh my God, I have nowhere to go. I have no plot. I have to sit down and write my master's thesis. my whole world came crashing down. Like, I realized in that moment that I used to escape mentally through social gatherings. Like,
Yeah.
I never wanted to be alone, and I just wanted to, like, when something is happening, it's quiet. Let me watch a movie. But this time around, I'm writing my master's thesis, so I had to stop watching movies. And my phone died. I had no phone for like a week because I had sent it to be fixed. And in that moment is when I sat down and I was like, what is happening to me? And I can imagine why I saw myself in your stories, the fact that now that you've added this other part of the pandemic, it makes so much sense how you can build a career and feel like, okay, I'm on top of my game. And then something as simple as the world stopping makes you realize that, oh no, you don't have anything in your hands, because
Yeah.
your whole business is centered around people moving around. So that must have really brought up this questioning of your worth to find out, like, am I even doing the right thing? Am I doing this? So how, like, let's say another pandemic did come, God forbid. What is the Laura now? How would you face it as the Laura you are right now? Like, how would you face it differently? I'm interested to find out.
I mean, apart from all the negative things that come with the pandemic.
Yes,
Now,
of course, yes.
alone time, I have learned how to spend time alone, like value it. No, now it'll be okay. I work like I've built all these habits over especially last 1 year and a half. Work out a lot. I'm way more spiritual. When you know how they say anxiety or worry is the opposite of faith, right? Like I now have,
Yes.
like I had to, not had to, but I discovered it and I embraced it and I love it. So I've got the spiritual part. I'm working out. As long as you're working out, your mental health is so much better. I embraced reading, you guys. Like, can you believe even when I hit traffic, I'm like, aha. Well, usually I'm not driving, so I always have a book in my bag. So even if as long as late, remember I said these days, like 1.5 hours between meetings, always. So I'm that kind
Yes.
in a restaurant reading a book. Um,
Yeah.
also learned that you know what you can actually survive anything. I mean, in COVID, I could not see past COVID. Like I had never faced a challenge like that. Now, even when the office calls with a crisis, I'm like, it's okay, let's calm down. We shall be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
do this, let's do this, let's do that. Like I would,
Yes.
be more patient. I am way more resilient. I am way more like I have learned to manually become like calm myself, like whether it's through breathing techniques, through yoga, working out, sleeping, like all these habits. Like I don't sleep with my phone next to me. That's something I completely had to cut out. Good sleep. So many things that would definitely, I would really embrace the pandemic. That's why I said, apart from the negative things that come with the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Even when I don't want to say healed. We're always on a journey, right? But yeah, now much better. I have not taken. I'm not taking on an active role in. No, there's now a CEO, full team. I now I'll just look at reports once a week. So I have really distanced myself from operations to be able to think, to be able to focus on the strategy part. So I don't have a very fast paced life like I used to. In fact, even when I got better, markets are better, everything is back to normal, I have not immersed myself fully in operations. No. Um, because I also realized that one of the reasons that why, one of the ways that I really struggled in COVID was because I was very much in operation. And yet at the same time, the person who had to rise above everything and think and really plan and figure things out. Like, you cannot be the captain of the ship and at the same time you're down in the engine and doing this and doing that. And
Yes.
you cannot
Yes.
be looking. Someone has to be seeing what others can't. Someone has to be seeing the horizon, seeing what are not seeing. Otherwise, if
Yes. Yes.
down in the kitchen cooking, if you're
Yeah.
all won't
That's
work.
very true. Yeah.
Exactly. So it took me a while to be able to rise above all that and forge a way forward. for us. So
Yeah.
I am permanently there.
Yes.
You know, you said something very interesting about digitization and everything and what you're studying. So that's where we're going as Travel Neza. We've been working our way toward being fully digital. We have an app coming out 2 months. That's where you'll have everything in your palm. You'll be able to book your flights, your hotels on your own. You'll have the all-inclusive holidays, but you'll also have those where you can customize. So we've been working on a lot of AI and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lot of that right now to be able to work on that and to even do your research and everything just to know that you're heading in the right direction. That can't be the same person that's also working on the client's bookings, dealing with the airline negotiations and hotel negotiations. No,
Exactly. Yeah.
people
Yeah.
can don't see you traveling anymore, we don't see this and that. No, but you see the company moving, you still see the brand. That's the reason, because
Yeah, that's true. I
moving.
like that. And I like that. I think one important thing that you say that stands out to me the most is there's this leadership podcast I listen to with a guy called Craig Rochelle. I don't know if you know him. He's a pastor, but he has
Yes.
a leadership podcast. And I was listening to an episode recently and they were talking about micromanaging as a leader. And you're like, it's like, are you a micromanager? Because that's something that I am also trying, because I'm like, the one thing that really scared me so much about starting this platform was leadership. Man, I like to be the one like moving around doing everything, just sitting up there and trusting that the people who you've given the roles to do are able to do it. And it turns out, as I'm learning right now, of course I haven't yet stepped into like the main role. I don't have like a huge team behind me, but while you were talking, I thought about it in a way that if you are not confident in yourself that you had the right team, you have implemented the right everything to run your business, that means that that's a you problem. Because if you're walking around
Yeah.
calling people asking, did you do this? Did you do this? That means you don't trust your decisions, you don't trust your decision making. And that usually comes from the fact that you have not dealt with you.
Yeah.
Yes, you have some things you need to work on. It has nothing to do with the other people. It has to do a lot with the person that you are. And I think what I'm learning from your experience is that your mental health, yeah, your spiritual mental health, like your personal development, is the key to unlocking success. Of course, that's something that everyone is talking about, but I think like you are explaining it in such a practical way to show that you were running this company and then you had to put a stop. But then at that time, you came out and you're much stronger to realize that, okay, now we have bigger visions. We can do this and this and this and this because I had to work on myself. I don't know if you had the same team before and right now, and how your relationship with your team has changed ever since then. How has this change happened for your team?
Well, the ones who have crossed over into this phase as well, like that I've stated, we are now, it's such an A team. Like I have seen them grow, they have seen me grow. We have a bond that is inseparable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
while we're talking about that and this personal development journey, I literally believe that that's where. So I'll talk about something that I do with the teams that I lead. We have a book club every month, right? So every month, each person reads a self-development book, right? I'll give an example. One of the hotel managers, I think the manager of Acacia Boutique Hotel, is reading a book called How to Hug Porcupine. So obviously that how to handle difficult people. That's what it's about, right? And
Yes.
someone else big changes. Someone else's. I'll show you what I'm reading. And we actually have for Travel Neza, we have ours. I don't know if it can be seen. It's
That's
the book
cool.
of
The
boundaries.
book
The book
of
of boundaries
boundaries. Nice. I like
set
that.
that will set you free. So I have a book library, and they all choose whichever one speaks to them. When we have these review book club sessions, we then share 5 things that really stood out for us and how it will impact us. But you can imagine if you have a team, and this is going to be like the 8th month going now. If you have a team,
Wow.
that's reading a book every month and actually
Yes.
sharing with everyone. So if I go for a book
Yes.
review and it means I'm going to leave having learned about 7 other books, you know, different, a lot of them are like, this is free your mind.
Nice.
Just
I love these books.
books like can you imagine how
Yeah.
good it is team building, because then you're growing together as a team. You're literally growing together.
Yes, I love that. Yes.
Emotions. If you can't control your emotions, if you can't control yourself, like if you can't manage yourself, there's no way you'll manage work well. There's no way you'll manage your customers well. There's no way you'll manage your
Yes,
family. Remember, if there's crisis
that's
at home,
very
it's
true.
definitely going to work environment. So it starts with the self. It starts
With
with
you.
self.
Yes.
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 Like
And it's like when it starts with you,
yeah. Yes. And
it
many
changes
organize
everything around you.
everything. Many
Yeah.
organizations will focus marketing trainings, accounting training, like the proper, but there has to be a good balance. I'm not saying I don't do those, but there has to be a good balance. And in fact, more emphasis has to be put on personal development.
Yeah, I believe that as well. I think what you have said is very important, because if you look at a team, they say that if you a good leader should focus on the personal development of their team. Like for instance, if I'm coming late every day, if I'm not performing really well, before you fire someone, it's good for you to ask yourself, what's happening in this person's life? Like, you as a leader, have you done everything possible for your team to thrive where you are? And I think that's one vision that I have for She Center, is to recognize that, because even me personally, like if you look at your own personal life, for instance, you like, what limitations did you face when you were working for people, or when you were starting this project? What limitations did you find when you were in your family raising your child? Did you show up as your full self at your workplace when you were dealing with all these things? So why wouldn't you extend that same grace to people who come to work every day and they're not 100%? Because if someone is not 100%, then there is clearly something that's happening. But if you are, how do they call it, emotionally intelligent, to understand that, there's something off with this person, then you
Yeah.
might discover, okay, because I'm imagining like this self-help book.
But now she's always late. What's going on?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Instead of just firing the person, it's always good to find out. Then you later, like one time I was a manager to like this show, small video library. And this girl came late one day. I was like shouting at her, and then later on, she just kept quiet. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm late," because I was really frustrated with the fact that she didn't say anything. And then later on during the day, she told me my mom was in the hospital. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Like, I shouldn't have gone. But then
But
it
it's
es-
waiting,
it exposed.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. It exposed something in me to realize that, okay, this is something that you need to work on. Like, you can't just go jumping to conclusions. And the fact that
Conclusion.
I've also been on a personal development journey. There's this guy called, is it Jim Ron? Is it Jim Ron? Yes, his name is Jim Ron. You should
Mm.
look him up. He has amazing content. They have a lot of extracts for his sayings, like some of his messages that he was saying. My uncle is into philosophy and all that stuff, so he shared it with me one time, and I was listening to his podcast. They had put like a lot of his extra. He's probably like in from the those, like even the videos where they were recording on cassettes or audios. But his content
Yeah.
focuses so much on personal development, and he talks so much about like developing you as a person. Now, for him, he ended up turning into a millionaire. Like, he became very rich, and he uses that to show people that this is something that is achievable to any person. It just has to start with you, like all those things that you are holding in your head. And it's something that when I started like that journey of also discovering myself, I started reading books. And like, when you listen to a podcast of someone, now these days when I listen, I'm like, okay, this person has really connected with me, with their story. I find out about more about that person. Like, I go check out their Instagram. What do they do? How is their life moving on? Because in that, I start to realize that, okay, if this person who shared this really sad story that happened to them can get to where they are, that means there's nothing impossible for me as well. So I think like as we go on or before we conclude, I would like for you to share what challenges or obstacles have you faced in living out your purpose. Okay, you've shared some of the things that went on during the pandemic, but maybe you can share any other obstacles, because it's easy for someone to listen right now and say, okay, check. You go through the pandemic, you get personal development, problems are over. Right now, Laura has no problem. Please share what are some of the continuous obstacles that you're facing, and how has this journey of yours helped you to prepare, like, and how are they preparing you for the impact that you're striving to make?
So I'll answer the first, which is basically what have the challenges been? The biggest challenge, because we're all social beings, when you start to really fully live in your purpose, authenticity, like you really grow into yourself, like become more of who you're meant to be, zero resistance and everything, then you will lose friends. You will lose friends, you will lose a lot of your social circles. You'll find that there are very many activities you can't do anymore. There are many places I can't go to anymore. And of course, on those weekdays, I will have, a bit of FOMO, a bit of loneliness will creep in. This whole, I have, especially like say last year and this year, like it's been like a rebirth. I've had to make so many extreme changes, and making new friends is not easy. Joining new circles or associations is not easy. Because I used to just follow my passion, right? But by that I mean I would go only where I feel like being. Now, to be able to live your purpose, there's a lot of discipline intertwined in there. A lot of it. Without it, you'll
Yeah.
never make an impact. You'll never realize your vision, your dreams, all that. So, with that, obviously came, places I couldn't go, habits I just had to drop. Now, in this Uganda, if you drop certain habits, especially all these social habits, you're dropping a lot of friends, all
That's
of a
true.
sudden it's
Yeah.
like, so what do I do on a Saturday? What do I do on a Sunday? Now, of
Yeah.
course, yes, I'm reading more and stuff like that, but it can be quite a challenge to really, like, just, it's like being quite as if born again, like you're now a new person in new spaces, and learning to socialize in those spaces. So I recently joined
Yeah.
a run club.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Like I'm excited getting there. Then I get there and I'm like, ay, ay, ay. Now there's 50 excited people. You have to say hi and everything. Usually in the first 5 minutes, I want to go back home. Then I'd
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
remind myself of why I'm there. And you know what? Now I've even made friends there. So, but it can be a challenge. Making friends and joining
Yes.
new circles and doing new things at
Yes.
my age is not
Yeah.
easy. We're such creatures of
Yeah.
habit. So you feel so lost. It feels
Yeah.
like you're a 5-year old again going to nursery for the first time.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
difference between
Yeah.
you and that person. So that's been a big challenge. The second is I've always been very, very hyper focused on what I believe in and things like that. And so you find that sometimes that comes with not being as adaptable and flexible as you may need to be. Let's say in the hotel industry, you find people with so with Travel Neza, I'm a 100% shareholder. In the hotel industry, I have their other shareholders. So being able to communicate what's not going right, or just handling differences has been quite a challenge,
Yeah.
because sometimes you have a vision for where the hotel business is supposed to go. Let's say among the shareholders you're the one in the industry, but then you have to accommodate everyone's opinions and decisions and
It must be
everything.
hard. Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I sit in a meeting and I'm like, if I could just wave a magic wand, if I could just do juju and everyone just sees things the way I want, so I've literally
Yeah.
I've
I
had to go
know.
for communication
Yeah.
courses. You should see the podcasts I listen to, how to get people to believe what you're saying, how to communicate, how to put your point across in the boardroom.
I like
Because
that. I
I'll leave
like
a
that.
meeting and
Yeah.
go like, what is it I'm doing wrong? And yet because I can see it, you can see it's like seeing a car go in the wrong direction. So it gives me so much anxiety. I will try do everything, but if you overforce things, then you're stepping on toes. Then you're
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yet giving up
that's true.
is not an option. So sometimes being as passionate as I am and having a very clear purpose, like for me, it's I have lived a very decluttered life right now, you know. Um it can be quite a challenge to accommodate other
Yeah,
people's journeys also,
it can.
you know.
That's very true. Yeah,
Yes, so
yeah.
those have been my two main challenges. Yeah.
I like that. I did hear someone say that when you change, the people around you, like if it breaks the system,
Yeah.
because there are people who have been depending on your brokenness.
Yes.
It's
Who have
like an
just gotten used
alcoholic
to that.
solving change, and now out of the sudden, people are like, "Now what are we going to do with this plot?" Like,
Right.
yeah, come on. I remember when I was in, and it's really hard in Uganda. Yo, I feel you. I stopped drinking in 2020, and I remember I was like, you know what? This is not hard. Like, I didn't struggle at all. I just woke up and said, that's it, I'm done. And now it came to having to go and hang with my family here at my mom's place. And then when I went, I was like, okay, that's what. Now my anxiety was going to Uganda. I had so much anxiety. I was like, oh my God. Like, how am I going to tell people I don't party anymore? I don't drink. And I remember when I reached there, people just kept saying, no, the problem is you weren't handling it well. You need to
You
do it
tried
like
this
this.
other
You need to do it like
brand.
this.
You were doing it badly. Huh?
I'm like, guys, you need to join me. And I stood my ground. When I came back, I was like, okay, now I am strong enough to say I have actually quit alcohol because I think if I was in Uganda, it would have been almost impossible, nearly
It's very
impossible for
hard.
me to do it.
It's
Very
very
hard because every day I'm on the phone. My friends are like, guys, let's do this. And when I'm in Uganda, I'm there for a short time. So they know if we have to do something with Resty, we are going to just, do dinner or something, not to whatever. And some people who are like, leave us, please, just come. And I'm like, guys, I can't. I'm not going to come to the bar, to the club. It's not me. They're like, you? How do you do this? And they start reminding you of the old person
yeah.
that you were when. I'm
And
like,
then
guys, I
sometimes you
was
have
a
to
broken
compromise.
person.
So sometimes I
Exactly. I was like,
compromise. I'll go out and get a drink that looks like a drink. You know, like I will go out to where everyone else goes out because then you become such a party pooper. You're that person always saying no.
yeah,
You're the
yeah, I
person. It
can
just becomes
imagine.
uncomfortable, awkward, and everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's been a challenge, but it gets much
yeah.
better. It's much better now than it was a year ago. You know, so I obviously know that it will be much better a year from now than it is now.
Yes, yes, it
And
will
for me,
get
that's what
better. Yeah, with
matters.
time.
That's what matters.
Yeah,
As long as
and
there's
I
progress, no
like what you
perfection.
said.
Yeah.
I like what you said about going out and putting yourself out there to make these connections of people who do something other than
Yeah.
party after party. Because I think that keeps you more accountable. You get to realize these guys are also probably escaping some some dangerous routes, and they're like, okay, let's do this. I like that because in many cases, I think, and that's one thing that the She Center platform is going to focus on, not only stories of people, but community and resources because every person that I talk to emphasizes I have four main objectives, which I feel like is hindering us as women from thriving and becoming who we want to be. And I feel like it's the resources. Like you want to make the change, but you don't know what to do. Someone tells you read a book and you're like, I don't have money to buy those books.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be that person to tell you you don't need to. Like for instance, the I'm guessing in your book club, someone would say, oh yeah, I don't have the money to buy the book every month or something. But the fact that one person reads the book and then they share,
And then they
you
share.
fix the problem.
Yes. In
Exactly. You
fact,
fix
we've
the
just
problem.
launched a borrowing system where for
Yeah.
60,000 a month, you actually just get a book on rotation. So when you finish that one, you get another one.
Yes.
But then also
See?
to be able to come into different, to come and attend a book club every month where you listen to other, like for me, that's the most exciting because sometimes
Exactly.
I want
Yeah.
to consume all these books at once and you can't, you know?
But you don't have the time.
Yes, but I also like hearing it from another person's perspective. Like I love
Yes.
hearing it through
Yes.
someone else's voice and experiences. For me, it's
I
really
like that.
exciting. Yeah.
Yes, that's very amazing as well. I love that. I used to like that part in school. Like I did literature for O level, and I remember I usually never used to read the books, maybe because I couldn't afford to buy them every time. But I would just go to the one person I know who is really good at narrating stories, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, what did Romeo do?
Yeah. That's what
And
I
then,
also.
interestingly, I would come out of the exam and I've performed better than that person only because when when you're reading the book, you might not see the perspective of so many people. So while she would be telling me the story, I would be asking questions.
Yeah.
How about this? How about this? So in that moment, I'm actually like practicing the skill of comprehending
Yeah.
different information, and I would perform well. So I like that. Another thing that you mentioned, I think that like another objective I had was community. I feel like you can come from your house, you've done your isolation, you've worked on yourself, but then when you come into the world, you realize I'm not strong enough. I can't do this. But to find a group of people that share your similar interests and on the journey that you're taking, I think that's very, very important because it helps you to stay in line and to also have accountability with the people that you're with. And another thing I think for me that the platform focuses on the most is the fact that like to have not just resources but to know where to go.
Yeah.
When I listened to your podcast, you did share about the podcast where you were a guest. You did share about like rehab and all these
Yeah.
resources that people have no clue about. And I feel like that's something
Rehab,
that is
different
very
therapists.
scary.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very scary. I've met so many people in my life who call me and you can see this person really needs help. And literally, I don't know where to refer to them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I've seen this person online talk about this, but then people online are not always like, someone could have a million followers as a therapist, but then you reach out to them and you don't have a good experience.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like is very, very important in listening to someone's journey, because that shows you like, oh, okay, so you mean I can find these particular resources and these particular services in my country where I am. So I like that very much. And I really
Yeah.
appreciate that you are sharing your journey. I think that's very bold of you. It's very encouraging to know that I can see myself in your story even if we came from completely different like worlds. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, the one thing that I stand for here at She Center. Is there anything you want to say before I have to ask my last question?
No, I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to see what's going to come of it at the end of it
Me
all.
too.
We need
Me too.
more and more and more of centers like Tuza, like yours, of just people
Yes.
sharing. Like I said, like what you said, how the podcast where I spoke, I don't even, it must have been the one with Lisa.
Yes, yes, Lisa. Yeah,
Yes.
Lisa to see me. Yeah.
That the way, the impact it had on you, that impact, that could never happen to you if you were listening to Beyonce saying how she OD'd on something, or how she, you know
Nothing.
what I mean? Like,
You'd be
it's so
like,
far
girl, your
removed from your
problems are
life.
not mine.
Yes, your problems are not every.
Yes.
You'll even be like, no, it must be the
Yes.
weather there, or
True.
what, anything. But just the fact
Yes,
that it
that's
was
very true.
me, a person who's here in your
Yeah.
country, went to the same schools you
Yes.
went to, all those things, grew up in a
Yes.
Ugandan home, and especially, let's say, my story, where in a Ugandan home, there was no, you know what I mean? Like, as normal and as average, so where people want to
Yes.
dismiss it
Yes.
and be like, it's because of this. Nope. So
Yes.
my story
Exactly.
literally
Yeah.
forced
Yeah.
people to go like, so this could happen to me
I
also.
know. And no, it's really touched a lot of like the
Yes.
social lives of almost every
Yes.
Ugandan. Like some of them are just in denial, to be
Yes,
honest.
because
Some
many
people are
of them
just
think
in
about this
denial.
happens to people who are musicians in the ghetto, or
Yes.
who are
Yes,
what. No,
exactly.
so this
Yes.
it made them go like, you know what? Maybe I'm
I
going
have a
down that path,
problem.
or maybe my best
Mm,
friend. This is
mm.
what has been happening to her, but I've not been
Yes, yes,
understanding.
yes,
Maybe
yes.
this is what's happening to my brother, because I got so
Yes.
many inboxes, and I would just refer to the different counselors. I've always made it clear, I'm not a counselor or therapist in any way. Yeah, yeah, but I just have
Yes.
obviously quite a database of them now. So,
That's
yeah,
really
so
good. I like
that's
that.
what I
I
wanted
like
to say.
that.
That
Yeah.
that's the reason
That's
why I
amazing.
started to speak, even if I had all this anxiety. I had never ever done podcasts. Never, I was never on video like this, right? But it was just because of that, because I kept thinking about that person that could be listening, that's secretly, quietly going through something.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
There's
So, what's your
huge
last
power in
question?
your story. There's huge power in your story. First, before I ask the last question, maybe you can share about Tuza. Is it open to everyone? How does someone connect with the Tuza, the reading thing, and like how is it going?
Yeah, you can join that. So, on social media, especially Instagram, there's so Tuza Book Nest. The page is there, and you can inbox. There's a WhatsApp number. Joining is very easy. Then there's the Tuza itself. Now, under Tuza is just where whoever wants to share their story, whoever wants to be referred, whoever's going through something needs a referral to somewhere. So it has become quite a referral page, right? Or for
Wow.
now, as it's still forming. It hasn't even been 8 months, for example. So as it's still forming, because then you'll have, let's say, a mom reach out and say that their daughter is going through, you know, an addiction of sorts, right? And they don't know where is the best place to place them. So for me, even just from
Yes,
listening to
yes.
that, I'll know which counselor to refer them to, which rehab center. I also work with small. I've said keep it at small organizations. In terms of personal development classes, just self-awareness, just getting them started on that. I run book clubs with small organizations, just for a small fee per person. They each get a book and we will have a review, and I make it really interesting. It becomes like a team building activity as well. But at least one where they're learning something and not just skipping ropes. Not that there's anything wrong
Yeah.
with skipping ropes. But yeah, so that's really what it is. It's
Yeah.
open. The page is there. It's open, but it's still forming. Like I said, one thing that I have that I think is a gift is I don't overthink things. Like I can start something
Just start.
without knowing what the 10th page will look like. I will just start
Yeah.
and I will figure it
Yeah.
out
That's
as I
good.
go. It's also how I started Travel Neza. I knew that it would work. I knew people
Wow.
wanted to travel. And I was like, okay, let me start
Yes.
creating this. Surely we'll get from the airlines. Like I just figured things out as I went, right? Same thing with a lot of what I've done. Even when I reached that stage and my mind was breaking and I decided to go into a treatment center, it was okay. I've decided to go. So, I just said I'm going. And then I started looking for one there. If I had decided to overthink that process, you know how I would have been
Yes,
in
yes,
research
yes.
of centers and even ended up in I don't know what country still doing research. Meanwhile, things are getting worse, right?
Yeah, that's
So that's the
true.
same thing with Tuza. I just wanted to create a space. So sometimes I'm like, under that, I'm going to create a mentorship center, but only for ladies in tourism, in the tourism and
Oh,
hospitality
nice.
space. So
Yes, I
basically,
think
when they
that's really
finish
good.
university, between university and work, so they figure out what it is they want to do. Is it a travel agency? Is it this?
What's
So you
that?
see, I'm
Yeah.
still forming all this and partnering with different entities. So right now, it is like an amoeba. It can form into anything,
I love that. I love that. I
and
love and I love that
that's
it's
it.
all connected. I love
Yes.
that it's all connected. Like it's
But
all
basically, I had
telling
to
a
create a
story.
space. Even when I said talking about all
Yes.
this, it couldn't be under Travelers, it couldn't be under Acacia, and it couldn't be under Laura also, because then it became too overwhelming for that, because Laura is also a mother, is also an MD of these organizations, is also what. So I had to create a separate space for that. And
Yeah.
then as I was
Yeah.
doing, I was like, Pussy, what am I doing? And I write, okay, mental health. So I start writing that, and I just go with the flow.
Wow.
Yeah, as
I
long as the
love
vision
that.
is
I think
clear,
it's
the
very
reason why
brave.
I'm doing it, and that's what mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that the braveness because in many cases we're held back by perfectionism.
yeah,
You're
I'm the
like, I
opposite
want it to
of
be
a
a hundred
perfection.
percent before it gets to this level. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
Okay, so the last question is looking ahead, how do you see your purpose and contributions growing? You've answered this. And what role do you think platforms like the She Center can play in supporting women through this process of discovering and evolving their purpose?
Well, I think you're already doing it. Even just by, let's say, having me here talk about my story, right?
Yeah,
When you start to do this, you never even know what I'm going to say. Like, for example, this at the end of this, we could
exactly.
find a
Yeah,
way of even
yeah,
partnering. Tuza will partner with She Center and create something
definitely,
even
definitely.
bigger. Um,
Yeah.
but to just keep getting more and more involved, and the world is your oyster. Whatever it is that you choose to do, you're there. So for example, I've just gathered that you're in Germany,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes.
imagine if and you sound like you're definitely coming back home. No, maybe not.
I do want to have like a half life there because I feel like my life is really, I have family here. So for me, I'm like, okay, we've
Uh,
settled, but I also want to start this platform back home. So I
yeah.
realize I can be
Yes,
half
you
here.
can. You definitely can. You definitely can.
Yes.
So, no, what I was trying to say is you've got that benefit of being in a more developed country, where you can, see what you can get from there, to bring
Yes.
here.
That's
Even
true.
just on social media, right? All this, figure out how others doing it there with their libraries, what are their outreach
Yeah.
programs like, and you can introduce all that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
even have to open up a she center here per se. You can actually partner with one that's doing it here. Whatever it is, the world is your oyster. As long as you've started it,
Yeah.
you just keep going and
Yeah.
going and
That's true.
going, having more and more of these
Yeah.
conversations. And as you have more and more of these conversations, as long as the vision is clear, is well defined, it will just keep getting clearer,
Yeah.
what you want to
Clearer.
do
Yeah. That's
next.
true.
But I'm here to
Yeah.
support. Like I
Thank you
said,
very much. I
Tuza
love that.
I've intentionally not defined it, so because I really do want to partner with as many
Different
organizations
people.
as
Yes.
possible, just be in a support role. I don't even look at it as a profit making organization. No, it will be non-profit. It's literally just to support.
That's good. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that I asked you to speak so much more about it, because one biggest thing that I've been struggling with is mental health and how people can receive the help that they need. I recently interviewed this girl, and I reached out to her online. She's trying to help like girls, because she was abused as a child. She was a child, so she's helping young girls who are facing abuse. And when I came to Uganda in April, I joined her. Like, we just connected on LinkedIn, and then I heard her on the podcast, and then something was like, it drew me to her. I was like, you know what? This is exactly what I want to do. So it turns out like she has these monthly things which she's doing. And recently she shared a picture of a young girl who was being abused, I think by their dad or something like that. And this is one of the stories that really inspired me to start She Center, because as I was working in like Western Uganda before I moved here, coming here for my master's, this was one of the things where I was like, that story stuck with me. Like, I met a girl many who were facing these problems. So when she shared it this time around, and me listening to other people, like I went to join her on her outreach, I talked to her, and I'm seeing, comparing Germany and how they're facing problems and here. So I asked her, I told her, you need to find collaborations, because yes, you go and get this man arrested, you take this girl for a peb,
And then
what's going to happen to her?
yeah.
I asked her what's going to happen to her. I told her, there's this movie I watched where this like specific issues were being addressed. And I told her, you need to have a chain of connections where, okay, these people offer free mental health services, this person. And I think that's one thing that we are struggling with a lot as I think as people who are just embracing mental health awareness, to find that, okay, I want to come out and actually share my story, because I've found people who can listen to me. But then what am I going to do? How am I going to get the services that I need? I'm glad that you are offering this on your platform on Tuza, because I didn't know that. For me, I just thought it was like, when I see your posts, I'm always thinking, okay, book club, cool, that's nice. Now I'm intrigued to find out more about it. Then I can also refer it to people who I have talked to on the podcast who might never know you. And I think that's the beauty of collaborations like this, is because like I would never have known what you're doing, and this other person would never even know who Laura is, because you come from two different worlds. But now I can be able to say, hey, here is a woman who is doing what I can't do, but I want to do. So thank you so much for sharing that. I am very, very happy that we got to do this. I cannot wait to see how Tuza, I know the rest is doing okay. You're the expert in traveling and everything, but I am looking forward to see where Tuza is going, because you said you have no clue. And I am definitely looking forward to a future collaboration with you as soon as She Center platform has been set up. So thank you so much. Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is She Center, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.
Now, then I also had the passion. I've always been passionate about it, even before I knew all the technical details and stuff like that, right? And then made people happy, So there was the full part, the service part, all that, right? So I had that threesome covered. Yeah. But what was missing was that I realized, and COVID showed me this, I had been growing business wise, right? But I hadn't been growing myself. Does that make sense? Like building
Yes,
my
yes.
mental resilience, my emotional resilience, my, and because of how passionate I was about it. See, the more passionate you are about it, the harder you
Yes, yes, true.
cry. And so that literally happened to me in COVID. I had panic attacks, and I really did have mental breakdowns. And because for me it was just, I don't know if you remember, but in 2020 all the news, it sounded like the like travel was never going to happen
The
again.
what?
Like
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
came to a complete end. I had
Wow.
been out of work for that long, and starting, like, I realized then that I had never dealt with that much uncertainty. Like everything, I
Oh,
always knew that
yes.
step, and I didn't know how to handle uncertainty, and so of course anxiety shot up, in everything. So I literally had to get into treatment. I had to, get on medication. It was really, really bad, and that.
Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is She Center, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.